Hi, this is Zach here with the weekend edition of the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zach's Traders Cafe. It is Saturday, the 6th of September. Starting with the FTSE 100, which ended the week on a rather quiet note, and basically on the right side of 9200, the right side of the floor of that rising trend channel from June, around 9140. Above that, we're looking for the top of the channel as high as 9450, perhaps by the end of next month. More end of day closes above 9200 help the cause, and obviously like to see the RSI remain above neutral 50 as it is at the moment at 55. Worst case at the moment is we have a rug pull down to the 50-day line there, 9068. We haven't been back below that particular feature since the beginning of May, which is very impressive and also indicates decent strength or excellent strength for this market. Moving on to the DAX, and here it's been a story of trading on the wrong side of the 50-day moving average. You can see that we've got that 50-day line now falling, but the market's seeing the floor of that rising trend channel. It's basically mid-channel line there. Let's assume it's from basically back from April. The floor of the channel there towards 23,400, and also that's near to the August support there, 24,000, the 24,000 level. The recent support there, obviously 23,500. Let's get it right. And while we're above those two particular points, looking for a rebound towards the 50-day line at 24,000. The problem at the moment, though, is that we've got not only the falling 50-day line, we've also had two RSI, possibly three RSI failures below neutral 50. That does suggest that we need to have a bit of a pullback, perhaps towards the 23,000 area as a worst case scenario on this market. We do manage to stay above the floor of the channel there, 23,400, looking for the top of the channel there, up to 25,600 by the end of next month, by the end of October. Moving on to the cryptos, and here you can see that the situation Bitcoin is a little bit mixed. We have or did find support at the floor of that channel there from back in March. The floor of the channel currently around 109. Above that, we've been looking at the 50-day line, 115. But the problem is at the moment the RSI is still below the neutral 50 level. And while it's below that, we still have the risk of a pullback towards July support around the 105 level, and the resistance, as I said, 115. Best case scenario is we stay within the channel and stay above 108 and head up to 130,000 maybe by the end of next month. But at the moment, that looks a little bit optimistic. Moving on to Ethereum, and here this market trying to stay within that rising trend channel, which has been in place since the beginning of last month. Obviously, it depends exactly where you draw that price channel floor. Let's assume that we're still within that channel. Let's also assume that top of the channel is heading towards the 5,500 level, which is the area that's been touted here for a few weeks now. And while we are within that channel and above the 50-day line, 41.27, looking for the upside to continue. In fact, at the moment, the worst that we see is the 50-day line around 41.27. RSI just below the neutral 50 level, but obviously it's a bit of a dead market, so not too much to make of it. The main trigger, though, if you're a fan of this market, would be to wait for an end-of-day close above recent 4,500 resistance, which has been there for the last week or so. So end-of-day close above that would be a simple momentum trigger target for a move towards 5,500. Moving on to gold, which is the star of the show at the moment, and here the market still pushing towards the top of that rising trend channel there from April. That's 3,800. Been looking for that by the end of next month. If we're really lucky, we'll get that by the end of this month. So the way things are going, we can get that by the end of this month and get it while we're above the recent support for this market, which was around the 3,500 level. In fact, 3,511, the recent support for this market. Moving on to the stocks and starting off with Catenai, which after a glorious May spike, vertical spike, shares came back, but they look as though they're ready for another move to the upside with an extended RSI 50 rebound over the turn of the month, and we've had proper price action above the 50-day line, 0.25, and also above recent neckline resistance 0.29. Leaves us looking for 0.5 pence by the end of this month on Catenai. Onto a stock where somebody questioned my inclusion as a potential bullish situation. for critical metals. But if you question too many shares and try and work out the mix between the fundamentals and technicals, probably won't be charting anything. This situation, though, with the break back above the floor of the gap there at around 4.8 pence, there was a potential of a 10 pence target. That looks rather more credible now after the price action we had on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We've already filled the gap there, or had a brief gap fill up to 7.8 pence. So looking for 10 pence while we remain above the 50-day moving average around 5.29. But I suppose the big message there is the recovery, and the recovery after the overshoot to the downside that we had last month. Moving along to stock where the charting has worked rather well, and if I can remember the epic code, that's even better. Here you can see that we were looking for zero point 0.8 or so when we were in the sub 0.5 pence area. When that was broken, that resistance, then we were looking for 0.8. Above 0.8, we're looking for like a pie in the sky target around 1.35, which has also been hit, and that leaves us looking or guessing as to what the next level may be. At this stage, the upper parallel of that resistance line projection there to 1.25 looks as though it's heading to 2 pence. So basically above 1.25, looking at 2 pence on defence holdings as a best case scenario target by the end of this month. Galantas is obviously doing rather well with gold going through the roof. In fact, one could argue that gold stocks haven't really, or the mini gold stocks haven't really delivered. They've still stayed rather low. So looking for 9 pence here, while we're above the 50-day line there at 3.5 pence for Galantas. On to Hemogenyx, which is one of the stars of the show, both last week and during the past 5 days or the previous week. So at the end last week of August and the beginning of September, here you can see that we've broken through recent resistance around 7.3 pence, so looking for a retest of the 10 pence area over the course of the next week. So fantastic looking chart there, helped along by the way that it looks as though we're in the run up to a golden cross, 50 and 200 day lines rising, and the upside value there certainly while we're on the right side of 6 pence. That seemed to be a fair stop loss zone on an end of day close basis. On to IMC expiration, which moved up 15% at the end of the week. I would venture to suggest that a stock like this is not going to move up 15% on absolutely hot air. Here you can see we've got a rising trend channel base, top of the channel there, heading for 1.5 pence. That's what we're looking for by the end of next month, while we remain above the floor of the channel and the rising 200-day line there, 0.54. On to Mast, which has been one of the heroic situations of the year. Here you can see that we've hit various targets, various different coloured targets, the last of which was around £1.42. We're looking for the best case now up to the £2.20 zone, in fact £2.22 over the course of the rest of this month. And we're looking for that especially while we remain above recent broken resistance around £1.76. On to Metals One, where the mysterious rally, which took the shares up towards 55 pence, obviously fizzled out rather painfully. And here you can see, though, that we do have some hope for the future in the sense that there has been bullish divergence there, lower lows for September, but higher RSI trace plus. We're in a broadening triangle base, top of the triangle there, heading for 9.8 pence, which is what we're looking for by the end of this month, while we remain above recent support around the 4 pence level on an end of day close basis. The stock that even I haven't heard of and still don't actually know what it does is RC Fomax. And here you can see that which have had recent news with director dealing and stuff like that. But basically, the situation is that we've got a chart which looks as though it's in recovery mode after the big gap down that we had in June. Falling trend channel, top of the channel there, around 22 pence. We're looking at that by the end of this month, while we remain above recent broken resistance at 13 pence on an end of day close basis. On to Surface Transforms, where I think there's been a big appointee coming to the company, General Motors from memory. But here you can see that we managed to break our second target there, 1.8 pence above that, looking for previous support for this stock on the way down, which was at 7.5 pence, and we're looking for that as soon as the end of this month. So high hopes there, big turnaround, big U-shaped turnaround there with gaps, etc. So looking very impressive indeed on that, especially while we remain on the right side of 2p. On to the last two. The first one is Vault Ventures. And here we've got a sort of breaking news, in fact. I mean, it's obviously not very exciting if you're not a chartist or a technical analyst, but the RSI back above neutral 50 here for the first time since the end of June, which is not a record, but it's quite impressive, quite noteworthy. We also had the shares opening at the low, closing the high on Friday and on Thursday. So somebody looks as though somebody is rather keen on buying the stock above the 50-day moving average at 1.8p, looking for a minimum here around the 2.1p level. And but the main story here really is that we're hopefully turning around after a long time in the wilderness. Ideally, we stay above 1.5p, whatever happens. Finishing off with world chess, which I don't think I've ever charted before, which might be a record as well. Here you can see that we've got a broadening triangle base. Top of the triangle and the 50-day line near 3.25p. That's what we're looking for by the end of this month, while we remain above the 50-day line, 1.5p. That's it for me today. More updates during the week.